So Lisa is with IBM Watson Health, and she's going to talk to us a little bit more and share some of her experience. And then Stephanie Waite is here from Lurie Children's. And so the first question I will get into, I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Tell us a little bit about your role and what you do at your organization. Sure. Want to start, Lisa?
I have the mic, so I'm starting. My name is Lisa Smith. I am at Watson Health. It's a division within IBM that we spun off to apply Watson AI capabilities to healthcare. I've been with IBM I got acquired from PricewaterhouseCoopers in 2002 with 35,000 other people. So I've been with IBM for about 18 years and have had the luxury of being in a lot of different marketing roles because we do move around a lot, and as you all know, it's an extremely large corporation. But when we were launching Watson Health 5 years ago, I raised my hand and said, I want to be a part of launching this business unit. And I'll talk a little bit more about my other response. Meredith is going to join me for a session later today where we'll talk about some of the groups that I run. But one of them that you won't hear about today is I'm in charge of messaging for all of healthcare and government across our extremely vast business in IBM Healthcare and Government. So.
All right, hi everybody. You also with us? Okay, there you are. Perfect. So my name is Stephanie Waite. I currently am a director at Lurie Children's Hospital. I work mostly in the organizational development space, which focuses in on a little bit of learning. There's some leadership development. I've worked in the engagement space before, as well as culture with them across the organization. And then in addition to that, I have a little bit of a diverse background, as Jacque alluded to earlier. Currently, I'm the president of ACMP Midwest, which is the Association of Change Management Professionals, and we're the largest chapter in the world, which is really incredible. So I've heard a lot of really excellent questions around org change, communications, especially here amidst the COVID-19 crisis. So I can answer a lot of questions about that. In addition, Jacque and I know each other from Northwestern University. I'm an alumna of the program, of the MSLOC program, but I also work for them as well in one of their certificate programs, which Jacque is a graduate of. And then I also, which is great, talking about marketing and communications. I also am a co-founder of an ed tech company called Change Nerd, which is really cool. So we do a lot with housing and online learning platform and digital community of practice with individuals who run change, IT, project management, HR across the world. So yeah, if you have any questions about that, I'm here.
Great. While you have the mic, I have this. Would you like to answer the question that came up earlier around hospital systems and driving change within hospital systems?
Do you want to re-ask that question?
Yeah.
Sure. 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 Yeah, so I'll just sort of repeat the question as well. Essentially, what are the things that you can do, and I'll paraphrase, to really make sure that organizational communication and sort of driving either product adoption, marketing communication can be really successful? I paraphrased, I apologize. So I can share with you the model that I really use. It's actually Edgar Schein's model, if anybody's ever heard of it. He's out of the University of Chicago. We talk about it a lot when we're trying to build culture. He's really the godfather of culture, and that model is essentially an iceberg model. We all have seen the Titanic in here, yes? Mm-hmm. Okay, so we know the tip of the iceberg, right, is the thing that we can see, and that's it. We call those the artifacts. Those are the things that are supposed to represent the culture, so that right below the surface, we have something called the values, or the values of the organization, the values of whatever the product is, et cetera, what the values of, you know, the target segment that you're trying to influence. And then way below the surface that you need your scuba gear for are what we call the assumptions. So you've got the assumptions, which then drive to or hopefully connect with your values, which then hopefully your artifacts are the showcase or the item, language, products, the way something's packaged, the way, you know, whatever, you know, sort of syntax or sentence structure you're using, color, those are all artifacts. So anytime I'm driving something, right now I'm working on our culture award ceremony, and what I'm doing to drive whatever that is I use that model, and I say, what assumptions do we want people to have about this event? What assumptions do we want people to have about this sort of product or experience? And then I say, well, then what are the values? We have organizational values. So everything that I'm doing is aligned with that. So excellence is one of our values. right? Integrity is one of our values, compassionate service, respectful collaboration. So anything that I'm putting forth needs to be an artifact that supports the value set, which builds the assumptions of what we want people to have when they move forward. That's where I've seen the most successful organizational communications get driven. That's where I've seen the most successful product sort of implementation and penetration occur as well. Does that help?
Great, terrific. Well, Lisa, we'll turn it over to you. So tell us a little bit about the purpose at IBM and sort of how your organization talks about purpose and how that shows up in culture.
Sure. So if you think about just brands overall, and I'm starting with this because I think a lot of people just know IBM but have no idea what IBM does. And it's one of our biggest challenges as marketers, but we do a lot of stuff, so it's hard to represent the whole company. But if you think about like Nike, it's all about performance and athletes, right? If you think about Coca-Cola, it's about having fun drinking Coke with your friends. It's about a party, or enjoyment or social activity. When we think about IBM as IBMers, it's about being essential, and it's about our people, because really everything we do today is about the IBMer. So we might sell a lot of software and some hardware. We don't sell anything direct to consumers. We also don't, we don't sell products anymore. So it's all about the people, and so our purpose at IBM is to be essential. And we've been essential to our clients for over 100 years. I think we're going on 110 now, everything from putting people on the moon to hopefully now changing healthcare. And so really the number one, we have what we call 139, one purpose, which is to be essential, 3 values, which I'll talk about later, and then 9 practices. So it's how we exemplify ourselves as IBMers are the practices. So it's really, ours is to be essential to our clients.
Great. Stephanie, tell us a little bit, you told us about Luries Values. That was great to hear. How do those show up day to day? How do you see those, and how might a physician or somebody who's sort of at the front lines, how might they exhibit those on a day-to-day basis?
Sure.
Yeah.
So are you all familiar with Lurie Children's? Right, it's a children's hospital. Usually I get like, aw, right? So what you can see is that for us, from not only a marketing perspective, externally, but also internally, we have a specific brand. So our brand externally is all for your one. Internally, it's the power of all. I have to say that slowly, otherwise it sounds like Powerball. So underneath our brand of the power of all for your one, right? Those two really match each other quite nicely. We have 7 values. I can go through them if you'd like, but it's compassionate service is really the first one, so I'll speak about that. When you think about a children's hospital, compassionate service hopefully is the first thing that comes to your mind, right? So we breathe that. It's really put up everywhere. It's on our performance appraisal every year from an artifact perspective. We speak about it. The power of all branding is everywhere. And then also the all for your one branding is everywhere externally. So physicians, doctors, individuals who are our faculty, even teaching at Northwestern, as well as our nurses, our service providers, anyone who's non-clinical, we're always in the back of our mind saying, how can I be and provide compassionate service? So some specific behaviors are, right, am I getting at the level of the child? Am I asking the right questions? So you start to see how the brand overall, right, the vision that we have for Lurie Children's is, we create a healthier future for every child. That is our mission, that's our vision, that's where we want to get to. We do that by having the power of all for your one, through these values, one being compassionate service. And then we align them to the behaviors, which then you're assessed at the, throughout the year. So there are a lot of other examples I could put up.
That's great. Lisa, same question for you. You alluded to your values.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit more about those practices. Or how they show up on a day-to-day basis,
a couple
right?
Examples I won't go through all of them, but well, after the purpose are the 3 values, and that's really around our clients again, because everything's about our clients. So it's dedication to every client's success in everything we do, building long-lasting relationships, helping them be innovators. So the first one's all around our client. The second one is around innovation, because that's what IBM does. We want to innovate and change the world in a lot of different ways, or just even change our clients' worlds. And then the third one is around trust and responsibility. So we can't have either of those 2 things unless we have the trust and we're responsible to ourselves and our clients. So All of this is both internal and external. Some of the day-to-day things are behaviors. I'll just read them out. It's put the client first. You've heard that a lot from me. Listen for need and envision the future. So that goes to the innovation. Share your expertise. Again, that's all tied together. Restlessly reinvent our company and ourselves. Dare to create original ideas. This one I love. Treasure the wild ducks, because if anybody knows about the IBM culture, that really isn't much of, treasuring people who are just wild and crazy, but it's changing over time, and we're getting a lot more innovative and daring, I think is safe to say. Think, prepare, rehearse. So don't ever go out to a client or really anything that we even do internally without thinking it through, without really practicing it and rehearsing it. Unite to get it done now and show personal interest. So those are our behaviors, and we actually get judged on them at the end of every year. So we not only solely on those practices, but it's in the back of our minds as managers how we think that our teams exemplify those behaviors and our values and even our purpose in everything that they do throughout the entire year. So, and I think for my experience, and we can ask Meredith, is much newer than I am. IBMers are really just solid people who do exemplify those behaviors on a daily basis and are always willing to help each other. And this kind of segues into our culture. Our culture is great in the fact that we are all very focused on culture, and we all help each other and we help our clients, and we exude a lot of those behaviors. And honestly, if you don't, it's not the place for you to be.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Question for you, another one, Lisa, just related to that in terms of marketing, right? So you're in a marketing role. Yeah. So the things you just described, how do those play into the work you do as a marketer?
Yeah, in a lot of ways. So we have, I'll just throw out a couple examples that are not related to each other at all. But we have a thing called Think 40, where we're just completely encouraged to do 40 minimum hours of thinking and building skills and learning every year. I think I quadrupled that last year because I just love to come to stuff like this counts, right? And just learning about what others are doing in your marketing field, but also building skills where you have the skill gaps. And that's very much not only encouraged, but it's also supported in terms of the programs that you can get through IBM. They offered to pay for me to join the CMO club, where I'm talking to other CMOs about how to be a better marketer. But they also have tons of online learning. And I'll give you an example yesterday where our teams, we have about 85 people-ish in marketing in 4 different locations. And yesterday we decided, because HIMSS was canceled and all these other huge, IBM's event portfolio would blow you away. It's like in the billions of events that we do across the company, but in our group we do well over 100 big events. And they're obviously, as you all know, all getting canceled, and so we needed to reinvent and rethink what we were going to do in reaction to this. And so instead of our CMO just saying, here's what we're going to do differently, it was let's get in a room together, let's build the culture, let's brainstorm around the things that are possible, let's come up with as many ideas as we can in 4 different locations, then let's get back on the phone together. We spent almost a day doing this. Get back on the phone together, share our ideas out, try and figure out where there's overlaps, try and figure out where the corporation can invest in us, or we can use our marketing dollars that are no longer spent on events, and do things totally differently. And so we had a lot of wild duck ideas on the table, and now we're in the process of consolidating and figuring out which ones will have the biggest impact. But I think that just goes to the culture, right? It's everybody together and thinking differently and being wild ducks and changing because we have to change.
Yeah, I love the wild duck thing. So I'll remember that, right? I'll walk away from here and I'll know that's something I'll remember. And I think there's something powerful about that, the uniqueness of it, right? And those are the ones that you often remember, right? That often guide your decisions, right? And that you're thinking about in the moment, or in these moments of crisis or moments of uncertainty. What are the wild ducks? And it gives you the language, right? The permission almost to put out crazy ideas.
It's treasure the wild ducks.
Oh, treasure the wild ducks. Sorry. I love it. I know,
I do too. It's my favorite one. And I think, it's okay to fail. I like to see that, right? And the teams trying things, and even if they don't do well, maybe you adjust, and maybe you say, that was just, let's never do that again.
Yeah. Interesting. Stephanie, I would love to hear a little bit just sort of related to that. Again, we're in this weird time. It's uncertain. what are your organizations, and beyond Lurie Children, because I know you also work on events with ACMP and whatnot. What are you seeing, and how are you seeing culture play a role in the way that organizations are responding?
Yeah, that's great. How many of you guys are dealing with the COVID-19 within your own organizations? Great, 100%. Yep. All right. If you didn't raise your hand, I counted you anyway. I'll go to sort of not Lurie Children's at the moment. They're doing an excellent job of really keeping us updated. We're a hospital, right? So obviously we have these practices in play, and we have our own command teams, which is great. What I will switch to is ACMP Midwest. Because we're the largest chapter in the world, we have obviously a duty to communicate and to market our events in a specific way. We actually have 3 events that are coming up. And what we're also looking at, usually within an organization, you typically don't have a parent company, if you will. It's usually your executive team. In an association or something that serves the healthcare population, the overall parent company has just come out with their language. So we looked at that, and we're going to parallel that language. I think what's important is that the executive team or the individuals who should be marketing the messaging or communicating the messaging are all on the same page, and they all have a voice. So, Lisa talked a lot about together. I think often amid crisis, we often think we have to have an answer right now and right away and give the final solution. When in reality, when we think about org change and org communication, what's really important is to say, how do we all get together, take a quick little beat, think about what the solutions might be, even if it takes us an extra 5 minutes, as long as it's not, obviously in a safety situation, make that decision quickly. But then get input from everybody, because they're seeing it from different angles, come up with sort of your solution, and then you don't have the answer right away. I know Southwest just sent out an excellent communication, and now you start to see all these companies that have not just set the stage, but now other companies are following suit. So I think what's really important, especially from marketing and communication, from a healthcare crisis point of view, is are you going to be the first to set the pace, and then you may have to retract a little bit later, or how do you send out a soft message? Or are you going to be one to sort of see what's coming out and parallel the messaging that's going to go out later down the line? We're choosing now, and we've chosen to, as an executive team for ACMP Midwest from an association perspective, to follow suit of the overall parent company, and to make sure that we're not putting our people at risk. At the same time, we're also listening to our vendors. I don't know if you all know about the company ProSci. They're a change management certification company. They're pretty much the platinum standard for that. We have people that are flying in for that certification in a couple of weeks, actually next week. They are not canceling sending their facilitators to us yet. So we're kind of playing off of them. While we may cancel other events for ACMP Midwest, it's okay as well to separate your events and to take a look at the actual risk factor of those as well. So when you're thinking about communicating, what's staying the same, what's changing?
Wonderful. Well, thank you. Before we wrap, I wanted to see if there were any questions from the audience. Does anybody have any questions for Lisa or Stephanie?
We'll probably both have an answer. So I think, and you're probably not going to like this, it depends.
Yeah.
Right? I like easy sort of repeatable numbers. So 3, 6, we have 7. What makes it easy is we have like an acronym. It's not widely publicized, but I remember in the back of my mind, it's Sir Dibs. It means nothing, so please don't take that back with you. Yeah. But it reminds me, C is compassionate service, E is excellence, right? So I can keep it moving. Yeah. I think if you're gonna have more than 3 to 5, you want them to be memorable and not multiple words. So a lot of times, like at Lurie Children's, we have diversity and inclusion. Those two kind of go together, but then we have discovery and innovation, right? Those go together, but now you're starting to branch away. It's not as memorable, right? So that would be my answer.
Yeah. It does depend. IBM's big, so we can have 9. But I'm just kidding. It was what is interesting is the way that we created them, and the whole purpose value, the 139, was we did this thing, and this was a long time ago. So we've had these values for a long time. We did what we called a values jam. It was an internal jam where we asked the employees what they wanted our values to be, and that's how they got developed. So not that all those people are still around, but I think for the most part they're all kind of related to each other and kind of tie back into the basic theme of our people. So 9's a lot, but we're big. We do a regular ongoing performance review. It's through a tool we call Checkpoint, where you set your objectives in the beginning of the year. You have regular you can change them anytime you want. You can close them out. You can add to them, but that all has to be done with conversation with your manager. So to answer your real question, every manager is responsible for making sure that their teams are either adhering to the values or you're helping them to do it because they don't have the skills or ability to do it, and they are rated on it.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'm from the positive psychology background. So rather than being like, you need to adhere, right, while we do that and we have that sort of mental model, I really focus on where are the bright spots, which is actually change management technique. Where are they going well? What can we do to role model and actually shine a really bright light or spotlight on the individuals who are doing it very well? So during one of our leadership council meetings, which is all leaders, we actually have what we call the power of all moment. And it's an executive leader typically who's sharing or showcasing a story or a letter or something that an individual has really exemplified a specific value. In addition, we also typically draw on individuals who are really exemplifying the cultural values to be on committees and really sort of looking at from Jackie's perspective before, how are you not just embedding culture into adherence to it, but how are you embedding culture so that you're actually perpetuating it? Right? Because culture starts today, but it's going to continue and change throughout the course of the tenure of the organization. So where are they doing it well? What do you want to see more continue or continue further? And then praise, praise, praise. Have conversations in private, but praise in public. That's really my mental model around that. Great question.
Yeah. Yep, just in the changing of generations of workforce, and even I would expect like the turnover in your employees, how do you kind of keep that going in terms of the values that you create? Ours are basic enough, I think, that they should be adhered to no matter what age or culture or background that you are from. So I don't really, and we haven't changed them in a long time. I think if we needed to, that we would. We have a new CEO coming in, maybe that'll, because Ginny was behind all of this. Maybe that'll change with him coming on board, but we just same expectations.
Yeah, I think for us, it's same but different. So I would say about 7 years ago, if you all were familiar with the Children's Hospital up in Lincoln Park, we were a 4-story neighborhood-based hospital, right? With people bought their homes around it. They had their sort of neighborhood restaurants. The culture was much more communal, and people were easily accessible, right? Then when we moved downtown to the 22-story building that we have now, as well as other multiple buildings that are dislocated within the Northwestern campus and a little bit beyond North and West, we're starting to see a difference of individuals who may be applying. We saw a little bit of turnover, right? It's just a different sort of vibe downtown. The cost, right, has an effect on it. That's an artifact when you're thinking about building culture. So we've seen a shift of our culture for sure just by geographically moving. That's why it was so imperative and important after a couple of years to really say, now let's take a look at where we currently are and where do we want to be. We came out with a new vision, really, which is creating a healthier or a healthier future for every child. It's been always that. We just put it down on paper and then really aligned what the expectations were from a strategy perspective and ran it all the way down through the frontline staff.